So Bradley, I
Yep.
was talking to somebody who said that to start and end podcasts, we should have music. Can
Uh-huh.
you sing us a little bit of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" to start off?
Ben, for the podcast, soon to be Bleeding Ears, I would love to. Take me out to the ball game. There. I got you, boys. I'm not
Welcome
singing.
back to the ninth inning podcast. My name is Mr. OT5. I am here with Manic Bradley. We've got a heck of a podcast today, Bradley. What are we talking about today?
Well, we didn't cover the big trade deadline, so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the White Sox, who, well, they ended their historically bad run last night, but not looking good for them. Talking about a little bit of maybe rising issues across the league, and of course, if we have time, we're talking about goats.
Actual goats,
Yeah,
like the ones on the farm.
like yoga goats.
Yoga goats.
Yeah, where you lay down and you let the goats walk all over you. Apparently, it's very therapeutic.
Have you participated in yoga goats?
I have not. No, I'd love to.
Someday, mark my words, we will get Bradley participating in yoga goats.
Yep.
We will post that on our social media.
Heck yeah. Where else would we put it?
Well, there's a little folder in my phone I like to save for special occasions. But all right. So as we mentioned last time, we are going to start every podcast with trivia to warm our brains up, to warm your brains up. I am going to take the honor to start today. Okay. So Framber Valdez lost a no-hitter on the final out last night. By the way, today is August 7th. We were
I
recording.
watched that live.
Yeah, I did too. Brutal. We'll get into that in a second. He
Yes, we
lost no
will.
hitter on the final out last night. We
Hmm.
mentioned Dylan Cease lost one to Luis Ariz on the final out 2 years ago on the last podcast.
Hmm.
So, who pitched the only almost no hit bid since then, aka who lost a no hitter on the final out between Dylan Cease and Framber Valdez?
Oh goodness.
One pitcher did it.
Well, that this is tough
It is
because
tough.
I'm trying to think. Wow.
If you need a
Yeah,
hint, I can offer a hint.
I could use a hint. Pretty bad.
NL West.
NL West. I'm gonna guess a D-back here. I'm gonna guess. Oh shoot, Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen. I'm gonna go with Zach Gallen.
So it is not Zach Gallen.
Dang it! Was it a
Last
D-back?
he is not. It is not a D back.
Darn it!
On August 29th of last year, the
Mhm.
Reds were in San Francisco facing Alex Cobb,
Oh
who lost his no hit bid to a Spencer Steer RBI double in the ninth with two outs.
no, not
Um,
Cobb.
he threw a 131 pitch complete game.
Hey,
Um, he did not walk a batter until the ninth inning, but he did not have a perfect game at that point because one of his teammates, Casey Schmidt, made a bad throw in the third inning. Could you imagine going into the ninth inning, supposed to be having a perfect game, but instead there's an error, so you just have a no hitter instead?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be irritated, but like, I'd also be chasing history nonetheless. So at what point do you just have to forget about it and lock in?
Yeah, that's true, but like you're so at that point. Obviously, at that point, you're not thinking, "Oh, I should have a perfect game going." That would just be
Oh yeah,
selfish. But like afterwards, let's say you do get that no hitter, you look at it, you're like, "I was this close to throwing a perfect game instead of a no
right,
hitter."
right. Did you hear the story from like the Wells guy that pitched for the Yankees back in like the '90s?
I'm not sure. Give it to me.
So the whole story is that this guy pitching for the Yankees, he has a perfector no no going. and his in between inning ritual would be go back into the clubhouse to get a glass of water because I don't know, it must be better back there or something. I don't know. Maybe they have a Brita. Who knows? It is New York. So he goes back there. The TVs were on. Okay. And the announcers said, yeah, he's blah, blah, blah away from a perfecto or a no no. And all of a sudden, this guy spits out his water and starts like sweating profusely. Mind you, he was also hungover from a little bit too much fun last night. But so that added to the story. But the fact that he found out by the announcers on the TV is just like crazy, and just how the little things can just upset. Because baseball players, they're very superstitious. So like I personally do not say like, oh my god, this guy is blah 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 away from a no no unless I want him to break it, unless I want him to lose it. Because jinx, it's a real thing, especially in baseball.
Yeah, I remember I was in a baseball game one time, and pitcher is throwing a for sure no hitter, maybe a perfect game. The coach comes out and pulls him, and the coach doesn't realize he's throwing it.
Oh no! Wait, I remember this, don't I?
It wasn't on the team we were on.
No.
But the coach pulls him, and the pitcher is just like taken aback, walking off the mound, confused. The coach, you told him after, you're like, you realize he was throwing a no-no, right? Coach just like face drops. He's like, no, I had no idea. Also, while we're on the topic, I'm going back to Framber Valdez here. So I turned the game on. I'm watching the White Sox A's game, the game to watch last night, and I switch over to the Rangers Astros game because I hear that Valdez is throwing a no hitter.
Yep.
I swear to God, I turn on the Astros broadcast with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and Corey Seager is coming up to the plate, and they go, "This is not really the guy you want to end a no hit or have be the last guy in your no hitter." Because he's very capable of getting a hit. And what does he do? Good. Boom.
It's a nuke.
2-run homer.
Absolute nuke.
So, honestly, Framber Valdez, blame your announcers. That's the only person to blame on this one.
Dude, did you also see he hit that one into the cutout in right field in Texas?
Yeah.
Like that part of the field is like 410.
Yeah, that's like the part in Baltimore, they cut out that area in left field.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I don't like, by the way. I liked it when they had the short porches at Camden Yards. Okay, off topic. Continue, Ben.
That's it. What's your trivia?
Okay. So who has broken up at least 81 no-hitters with a home run?
Wait. Who has broken up 81 no-hitters with a home run?
Yeah.
So, who has hit a leadoff home run to start a game 81 times?
Could be.
Would be a leadoff hitter. So the first, man, I don't think
hard trivia this week.
I don't think Ichiro would have hit enough homers. See, I'm gonna say that, and then you're gonna be like, "Oh, it's Ichiro."
I'll give you a hint. It is not Ichiro.
I'm trying to think of just leadoff hitters that had some pop. Maybe it's Kyle Schwarber. I don't know. He's probably not been in the league.
He is. He's leading off only since he started with the Phillies, though.
No, I said I don't know if he's been in the league long enough.
Oh, I got you.
Man.
So he played for numerous teams, or I think 3. And one of them was the Yankees. Towards the end of his career.
Is it Alex Rodriguez?
It is not.
Who is it?
It is Ricky Henderson.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Alex Rodriguez was like the first thought that came to mind, but I was like, that can't be right.
All Ricky does is steal bases. Apparently not. 81 ding dongs to lead off the game. Look at him go.
Are those all leadoff homers, or are any of them
Yep.
like
81 leadoff dingers.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now I'm curious. I don't know if this is included in that. If there was just a no hitter going till the second time in the lineup and then he hit a home run, is it higher than 81?
No.
No.
Actually, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, but
Maybe.
wait, doesn't so obviously Mookie didn't do it to lead off the game, but I could have sworn I've heard that he has the most leadoff home runs in baseball history. Well, I guess it's only 81. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
not
move
sure. Not sure. Well, next we're as per usual. We're both gonna take a moment to show the good or and some maybe all of the bad of umpiring. Bradley, do you have an ump card you would like to talk about from this week?
I do. I will. So I'd say it's a little good one. Okay. I don't like to be negative with the umps just because everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously during the game, like yelling. No, this guy, his name is Vic Carapazza. He actually umped last night's game on August 6th between the White Sox and the Athletics. Okay. He had a 95% accuracy, which is only a 1.8% above like what was expected. And he also had a 95% consistency, which is above his average as well. He did miss a couple of calls earlier on in the game, but nothing too insanely impactful, which is good to see. I will say though, so the White Sox won this game 5-1, ending their 20-game losing streak. And the overall favor of Vic Carapazza is leaning towards a run towards Oakland, which the fact that Oakland lost is kind of mind-boggling to me. But yeah, I mean, great called game out of Vic. And you can't really, I felt like this game didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, but to these teams, like it did. Because obviously the White Sox, they wanted to end their streak. Meanwhile, Oakland did not want to lose to the 20 straight losers. And I think Vic did a great job of just calling a very consistent game and just be, not really, because I'm sure there was pressure as well, just like there is always, but a little maybe more. So I'm glad he didn't kind of capsize under that weight.
It's always good to see the White Sox persevere against brutal odds.
Yeah.
The 1 in 22 times that they were able to do it. But still, the game I decided to look at, I think we mentioned Alan Porter actually last time. I think we did. Maybe we didn't. Alan Porter on Tuesday the 6th only missed 4 calls, most of which were close. It was a Cincinnati win over the Marlins with a score of 8-2. He leans slightly in favor of the Marlins, but I mean, really, he just called a great game all around. There's one pitch that was over the plate that he missed, but over the course of the game, you can't be mad over this. And he did not miss a called strike, which I think that is obviously very important. So
Right.
nothing crazy. Just kudos, props to Alan Porter. Good game, good work behind the dish. And that's the only one I got. We're on a short week this week because we're recording this early, so we don't have as many ump scorecards to go off of. But good work to those 2 umps. Next, we have the meat and bones of what we want to talk about today.
Yes.
So recently, maybe not that recently, the trade deadline came and went a little over a week ago.
Mhm.
And there's just stuff to talk about. We're a week in, so all the players have had a decent amount of time with their new teams, whether it is for the good, for the bad, or anything in between. So, Bradley, who are some trades you want to talk about? What did you see that caught your eye?
One thing that I really want to talk about first, I mean, there's a lot, to be honest, but the first one I really want to hammer home is the Blue Jays Astros trade, the one where the Astros sent Yusei Kikuchi to the Blue Jays for 3 prospects, one of them being a pitching prospect, and then two hitters, one first base outfield, one just being a utility guy.
Yeah.
Um, Yusei Kikuchi has a 4.75 ERA on the season. So I think this points to 2 things. One, obviously baseball in general just needs more pitchers or more quality pitchers for like the winning teams. Which means that I think this year the rental starter market was rough. And the Astros just wanted anything to throw in that's decent. And in doing so, I mean, they had this Jake Bloss. He's a pitcher. I mean, and he started last year, and he raced up to AAA, and they were gonna bring him up if he did not have a couple starts. And I mean, come on, for that you're giving up 3-year prospects for that, and then this Loperfido and Willie Way. I mean, they're both crushing baseballs in AAA right now. Um, and you know what that means? They can just come up to Toronto so much faster and quickly that I mean they can have more of an immediate impact. And so I think the Blue Jays absolutely crushed this trade. I think they get. I mean, if I were to give them an A plus, I would give them an A plus 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 plus. The Astros, they got their pitching, but I think they got like a C.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Blue Jays did that trade in particular just was one of the ones that you look at, not even in retrospect, while it's happening, and you're like, what are the Astros thinking? Kikuchi's a good pitcher. He's probably average, I think. But to trade Loperfido and I don't know as much about Bloss or Wagner, but I feel like Loperfido alone for Kikuchi is a little bit of an overpay from Houston. Yeah. And then you throw in these other guys that prospects are prospects. Any of them could become an all-star. Any of them could be the difference between your team making the playoffs and not. So they're just as valuable, if not more valuable, because they could become literally anything than some other players. So I think the Blue Jays really got a steal of a trade on this one.
Right.
Another head scratcher that I saw, this isn't because I dislike the Cubs, but I guess most of the head scratching is followed by the rest of what they did at the deadline. They acquired Isaac Paredes from Tampa for Christopher Morel, which I guess alone, if that's all you're going to do, that's fine. But the Cubs also threw in 2 prospects. Going into the deadline, I thought the Cubs were going to be sellers. They were, at the time, either 4th or 5th in the NL Central, not really looking promising to make a push. And they decide to get Isaac, who he's a solid third baseman. I think he was in the All-Star game, I believe, this year. Every team has to have a representative, so Isaac was the Rays representative. So I don't think he's the third baseman that the Cubs should have gone for. And I guess I'm just confused. I guess I would have gave Morel a little bit more time. I don't know. It just doesn't. This one doesn't make sense to me from the Cubs.
See, I don't know if I really agree with you there. Unfortunately, I think that they've given Morel 2 seasons now. I think that he's hitting 199, which is lower than he was last year, which I understand there's sophomore slumps and stuff. But Paredes, he's under team control for a couple of years. He's not just like a rental player. And I think he'll be really good for them next year, which is following their plan of wanting to contend for future years, or at least next year. And I don't know if Morel, like Paredes, I think is an upgrade on Morel defensively, and maybe not home runs wise, but just overall, just getting on base. I feel like Morel is kind of that home run or nothing kind of guy. Like he has undeniable, insane prospective power, but his hit tool, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really see it. Where in Paredes, I see a very well-rounded third baseman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was doing some research when I was looking for my performances for the week.
Yeah.
Paredes has 5 hits in 7 games right now. So small sample size, obviously.
Mhm.
But in his 7 games for the Cubs, he hasn't done any better or worse than I think what Morel would have done there. So I don't know. I guess I'm just not the biggest Paredes believer, and I think that if it were me, I would have gave Morel a little bit more time. But what it comes down to is this was pretty much the only move the Cubs made. I think they might have made one, maybe two other moves, but like
Mhm.
respectfully, I don't see them competing in the NL Central this year. Next year,
They'll have a lot of money to toss around next year.
they do, but the NL Central is going to get a lot better next year. The Brewers have team control on a lot of young players. The
Mhm.
Reds are very young. I would assume they have team control on most of their players.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
The Pirates, the same thing. The Cardinals have money, and the Cubs, sure, they have money, but are the Ricketts willing to spend it? Because traditionally, the Ricketts have been more passive on the money end. So, like,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know because they went out and got, they went out and got Mr. Shortstop Bust. Um, I said that because I'm forgetting his name. Dan
Dansby.
Swanson. Yep, thank you. And then they went out and got Shota. They went out and got Seiya. Like they're spending more money recently, I would say.
I I agree with you in the aspect that yeah, they went out and got those players, but they don't really have a great bullpen. I don't know what their stats are, but it feels like their bullpen is what's losing them most games. Their
Yeah,
starting pitching is phenomenal.
it's
Their
phenomenal.
offense seems to be hit or miss. I mean, they have Seiya, they have Bellinger, they have Swanson, who Seiya I think has been the most. I guess Bellinger's been decent this year. But I feel like at least when I watch, Seiya has been the most consistent player. Um, I don't know. I just don't really think the Cubs are in a great spot to compete in the next year or two or three. I feel
Yeah.
like if I were that organization, I would instead of trade for Paredes, trade Morel someone and get some prospects back in return. I guess that's why I'm confused on this move.
Yeah. All right, and like a little bit off topic, but still on the Cubs. I'd be starting to be getting worried about P. Crow Armstrong, their number one prospect. He came up once, no success, got sent down, got brought back up, and not not much better. So I know it's just 1 year. Give him time because obviously he's young. But I mean, you gotta kind of hit that panic button a little bit because I mean, you have no farm other than him. So that's why I'd be getting worried.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jackson Holiday came up in April this year and was just awful. Couldn't get anything going. Just absolutely struggling and got sent back down. And he's got called up a week or two ago, and since then he has been the Jackson Holiday that was advertised. He has been phenomenal, and
Mhm.
somewhere PCA missed that when he went back down. I don't know if he missed it. I think he hit pretty well in AAA. So for whatever reason, the transition to the bigs just isn't working as well for
Right.
him right now. But I am fairly confident that he's going to switch something and he's going to have a at least more successful time in the bigs than he is right now. Like he's not going to be a career 200 hitter for sure.
Right. I'll talk about one that I think is maybe leaning. Okay, so it's the Jazz Chisholm trade for Augustin Ramirez, Jared Serna, and Abraham Ramirez. Abraham Ramirez. I want to start off with saying I think that overall the Yankees won this trade. First of all, second of all, I think that this trade for Jazz going from the Marlins to the Yankees is fantastic for baseball. He's on baseball's arguably biggest stage. Everybody knows the Yankees everywhere. And I mean, I don't think he's as successful as where his title is right now to support that standing. But I mean, guys love him, especially the younger kids love him. So as far as getting baseball, the bigger players into the bigger spots, I get it. Get the outreach, and I do think that is ultimately really good for the sport. Um, as far as the prospects go, like they have two guys in the top 30 that are given up, which is not that anything special. Um, they had, Augustine Ramirez was a catcher. They already had a surplus of catchers in their farm, so I mean, might as well get rid of one, especially on the lower end of what they do have. Um, yeah, I don't really see anything too extremely special out of these prospects, and compared to a Jazz, which has the name, the swagger, and just, I mean, he's a good player. Ultimately, he's good.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the prospects the Marlins got back, but what I do like is that they got prospects back.
Yeah,
I'm a big like you guys know I'm a small market team, so I'm big on prospects. And if I were like a team that is just not looking great, and then all of a sudden you have four or five exciting young kids coming up. That is so much fun. That's what the Brewers got to go through last year,
yeah,
and it's awesome. It's such a good feeling as
it
a
really is.
fan.
Yeah,
So exciting, because like I said earlier, you have no idea what they'll become, uh, and it's a really fun way. It's my favorite way to build a baseball team. So, um, one of the probably my favorite trade of the deadline is the Cleveland Guardians. I know I'm about to praise them right now. They got
whoa,
they got Lane Thomas from Washington
yeah,
for three prospects. I didn't write who the three down were, but it is a absolute win-win trade. Lane Thomas is a player that I like a lot. I believe in him to dominate at the big league level. And the Guardians adding him to the squad for a playoff push is awesome. Like I said, the Nationals on the prospect train is awesome. Um, just in my opinion, just an absolute win-win for both teams. And like I said, one of my favorite trades. The Nationals in return required a lefty who was the Guardians' number 8 prospect. Um, his name is Alex Clemmy. Shortstop Rafael Ramirez Jr. and another infielder. Um, but yeah, I was so excited about that trade.
yeah. I like that trade too. I think Lane Thomas is going to fit really well, and I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a good plug for the spot, especially since I think he's a good player. He's a talented player, and they have him obviously under team control for quite some time.
What's another trade that you liked or didn't like?
So I know we're kind of running low on time, but I will say I like. So I'll get say two, and then I'll say like the one that I really like or is interesting to me. So I think that the Mariners are winners. They went out and got offense. I like that. They got Randy. They got Danny Jansen, two great offensive players. Well, Randy's struggling, but I mean he's clutch. He'll find his way. I believe in him. And then the other one I wanted to talk about was the Dodgers getting Jack Flaherty. The rich just keep getting richer. Not a fan, but I do think it's a good trade for the Dodgers, and we don't have any bias. So it is a good trade for the Dodgers. They got more pitching depth and, dare I say, elite pitching depth, at least this year, which I think is, I mean, good for them. Anyways, the big one I wanted to talk about was the Tanner Scott, Brian Hoeing trade to the Padres. So I'll talk about the Padres side first. The Padres got the best reliever on the market. Okay. So, and Brian Hoeing is good in his own right. But man, their bullpen is disgusting. Absolutely gross. I'd say the deepest and best bullpen in baseball. They have, I mean, Tanner Scott's going to be joining Robert Suarez, all-star, great closer. Jason Adam, he was great on the Rays. He's nasty. Jeremiah Estrada, and then obviously, I mean, San Diego has other promising arms, but man, I mean, add one of the best relievers. He does struggle with walks, but I mean, the Brewers saw it enough. I mean, he can get down on the count and fight right back. This stuff is gross. And then add in Suarez, Adam, and Estrada. Heck no, I'm not going to want to face that. But then on the Marlins side, which I think they won, they received 4 prospects, which is a lot. But they got Robbie Snelling, Adam Mezer, Graham Pauley, and Jay Bashirs, which, if I remember correctly, 3 of those 4 prospects was like number 3, number 7, and number 10 in the Padres system. So, like, they got a lot of their top-end talent for a guy that, I mean, if you're not winning and you don't have a good farm system, get rid of the elite bullpen arm and get a freaking like this. Like dare I say the A's should have done. Like, I love that he's in Oakland. I love that. Homegrown. But like, man, get yourself a haul, just like these Marlins did. Overall, I think the Marlins did okay in the trade deadline. I think this deal is really what kind of boosted them to like being one of the top winners of the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think the Marlins and Tampa both had fairly good trade deadlines, and team that I thought probably had the best trade line was Seattle. Obviously, they got Rosarena. My most underrated trade I think that I saw was them getting Justin Turner from Toronto. All they gave up was one player, an outfielder named RJ Shrek.
Why'd you laugh, bro?
The movie, you know.
Shut up.
No, I think that is a phenomenal trade. The Mariners showing like they might have a little bit of interest in actually competing, which has not always been something that the Mariners organization has shown. It's just really exciting. I think this was a good trade. They made a lot of nice moves. But I think this is like the cherry on top. Just Justin Turner's been having a solid year. He's hitting 250 this year, which is probably good for like the 3rd best in that Mariners lineup. So a good little offensive boost, and yeah, that was one of my most underrated ones, is Justin Turner to the Mariners.
Nice. I think that the Pirates also had a very underrated trade deadline. I don't think that, I mean, they made any earth-shattering moves, but they dealt Martin Perez. They got Isaiah Kiner Falefa, which I think is, I mean, he can play anywhere in the field, which is always good. He hits for contact. And they also acquired Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins, which I think is a phenomenal move. He's young. He's really good. I don't know. I think he's really talented and a good trade. Then they got Josh Walker, which, to be honest, I don't know much about, but he's a left-handed pitcher, so that's always good. And then they also got Jalen Beeks, another lefty from the Rockies, which I know he was a top-end prospect there for a while. So, I mean, getting a top-end guy just like the next guy that they're getting, they ended up getting... Oh, shoot. I lost it.
We're not cutting this part, by the way.
They got Quinn Pristier. Sorry, I forgot his name for a second. Quinn, which he was a first round talent. And I mean, they got two top end talents in Beaker and Prestige. So I don't
Nice.
know. I think it's very underrated trade or trade deadline. I think they should get props for what they did.
I think the Pirates had. I completely agree with everything you said. I think the star of that was getting De La Cruz from
Yeah,
Miami.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, they're just like I said earlier. They're adding to the we're gonna be a problem in the future.
yeah.
In the NL Central, which is fun. The NL Central's, dare I say, might be one of the most competitive divisions in baseball next year.
I mean, they already are, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Brian
Um,
Brian De La Cruz kind of reminds me of shoot, that right fielder for the Mets. What's his name? Wow, I am struggling with names today, guys. Starling Marte. He reminds me of a young Starling Marte.
yeah, I can totally see that comparison. Um, the other trades that I wrote down that I just wanted to mention quick. The Red Sox getting Luis Garcia from the Angels. I love Luis Garcia. He's one of my favorite relievers that doesn't play for the Brewers. Uh, really good splitter. It's disgusting. And the other one is the Giants getting Mark Canha from the Tigers. It stinks for Mark Canha, dude. He has been around the league the last 2 years, four different
Yeah,
teams at this point. Um, but Mark Canha is a good human, a good player, and we'll see if the Giants are able to jump on his back a little bit to push for the postseason.
yeah, I liked it a lot.
So every for the first two podcasts at least, we've wrote an itinerary, and Bradley wrote down ultimate MLB road trip.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let him take over and introduce this one.
So I was just scrolling through the good old Instagram, and I saw. So I follow a lot of baseball pages, you know, because I love it. But they put on, "Would you do this trip with the homie? The ultimate road trip for MLB road trip for 2024." Okay, so they mapped it out. You can start two ways. You can start up in Seattle, or start in Miami. Okay, and so I think I'd probably go the California route first because it might be cooler, you know. So I'd go Seattle, San Francisco, Oakland, Dodgers, Angels, Padres, D-backs, up to Colorado, down to Rangers, Astros, then go up to the Royals, Cardinals, um, Cardinals, Twins, Cubs, Brewers, Sox, Reds, and so on through the East Coast. I think, I mean, I'd love to do this, man. I would love to do that. I mean, it's on my bucket list to see every single one of the stadiums. So I guess, like, I screenshotted this and want to talk to you, like, would you do this? And if so, like, who would you go with?
No, that'd be pretty cool. I wasn't sure if it was a picture like that or if it was us giving you our ultimate road trip. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
You get to go to 5 stadiums on one road trip.
Okay.
What? Where are you going? What's the route?
Like, I have to pick a specific route, or can I just say five teams?
We're gonna make you pick the route. This is gonna be a little more in depth here.
Hmm. I'd probably start in, oh boy. I'd probably go to Fenway, to Camden Yards, to PNC Park, Coors Field, which is kind of a haul. Holy Pennsylvania to Colorado, holy moly. And then I'd probably go to Oracle, the Giants.
Any particular reason for Oracle?
Mm, honestly, it's right on the bay, which I think would be really cool. And I don't know. I've always been a big fan of like past Giants teams. You know,
Uh
like
huh.
Lincecum and Bumgarner. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see where they played and I don't know, I always like playing it in MLB The Show too. Honestly, I was like, Coors was gonna be on there no matter what. So I was going between um Kaufman, the Rangers, or the A's. I mean,
It's
you could
fun.
buy the cheapest tickets and then get the best tickets, you know?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I would 100% have the A's on my list if it was this year.
Yeah.
Because, like, that after September, is there going to be any event in that stadium ever? Probably not.
Not anymore, no.
Yeah, I think I would do this. This is going to be all over here.
Oh god.
I think I would start in Seattle, go down to
Yeah.
Oakland.
Okay.
I don't even know from there. I'd probably you have to stop in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're stopping in Colorado. Um, and then I don't know what one would be first between Baltimore and Philly, but Baltimore, I've that stadium looks awesome.
Yeah, it
And the
does.
reason I say Philly, it is my opinion that Philadelphia has the best and rowdiest sports fans of any city in the US. So just to experience a regular season game, if I could experience a postseason game there, that would be awesome. They
Yeah.
it seems like the clip of I think it was it Bohm last year
Uh-huh.
uh when in the playoffs where there's just no audio except for the crowd noise and the crack. I doubt you can hear it of him hitting the grand slam against the Marlins. That is one of that's like baseball. That's just baseball at its absolute purest, and it gives me goosebumps. And I didn't really want the Phillies to win last year in the against the Marlins.
Uh-huh.
And you're just seeing that clip and you get goosebumps. It's like oh my god. But anyway, Philly and Baltimore would be whatever one comes first is what would be fourth, and then yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking of energetic and intense, the next thing in our list here is the MLB Statcat, not even Statcast era, pitch tracking era, which is I think it's since the 80s. Fastest pitch to ever be thrown in a big league game. Ben Joyce threw a pitch to end the game the other night at 104.7 miles per hour.
Damn.
The scoreboard on the broadcast said 105. That is disgustingly fast. Should we be concerned about pitchers hitting this velocity more often?
Um, I think so. I mean, you look at what the arms have been doing lately. I mean, everybody's hitting high 90s, and like physics will tell you this and that. Like your body can't handle all that much tension so often. You look at guys like Strider, who is going down with his first injury. He was always sitting in the high 90s. So yeah, I think I'd be worried. I mean, 1047 to me just seems dangerous. I don't know. Like, okay, it's not really dangerous in the way you think, but I mean, that much strain on your arm. Like, I understand some people are just built different and their tendons can take it, but I mean, not. I mean, what's to say he's a superhuman like that? You know? I don't know. I just think I don't know. I like when pitchers sit around like 93, 95 because then they have a higher chance of being able to control their pitches. They can still, gas and by people, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this velocity uptick, which obviously is the game of baseball. It's ever changing, but I don't know. Seems scary for now.
If you were a manager and had Ben Joyce on your team, would you say anything to him? How would you manage him?
That's so tough. Because if I was the manager and say I put him in the closer spot, like yeah, I'd be telling him to throw as hard every single time with consistency. So that'd be tough. But I think like he's in the what long really is he the closer the setup guy? Do you
Mason
know?
Miller. I think Mason Miller is the closer. I don't know what Ben Joyce is.
Bedros on the Angels.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Verlander does it best where he can, or when he's on the Tigers at least, he could throw 99, he could throw 98, 97, but he consistently sat around the third inning as to save his arm, and then when he needed to tick it up, he will. And I think that's a lot of guys that are going all out every single pitch, every single time. That I think they just let your body do the motion and throw the ball.
Yeah. I'm on the train that you're on. I mean, you look at like Verlander, Scherzer, uh, Roy Halladay, pitchers like that. They didn't throw as hard. They just had a better mix. And when
And
they
know how to
need
use it
to,
well,
what'd you say?
and they know how to use it well.
Yeah, no. And when they need to, they can crank the arm back a little more for a little extra velo. But I think there's a reason that most of these pitchers that throw hard don't last very long. Who knows how Aroldis Chapman is still around? I
Right.
remember when he was throwing hard. When I was young, I was like, yeah, this is insane. It felt like one of those players that are just having an insane season that you hear about and then they never return. You never hear their name again. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely not there definitely is a correlation in the velocity that pitchers can throw and longevity of their careers.
Right. Because everybody heard like guy like Nolan Ryan threw absolute ched, but he had a rubber band arm. Like so, I don't know. I don't know what changed. Maybe we actually. I don't know. Still to say.
And I think the most obvious example of throwing hard and having a shortened, limited career is Jacob DeGrom, because this guy comes up and he is just insane. He is when he's healthy, he is fantastic and just one of the best pitchers in the game. But he can't stay healthy, and I think a lot of that is because he's throwing 99 to 101 on the fastball, and that catches up with your body eventually.
Oh yeah. And a 90 plus slider.
Yeah, that's not easy. I mean, there's a reason that I never decided to throw more than 70 miles an hour in a baseball game.
If that.
Uh, but, yeah, I think that the velo around the league, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but like we should keep an eye on it. I think that it
Yeah.
in a way is unsafe. Obviously, it's harder to hit, but it's a whole new game for the good and the bad.
100%. I agree with you there.
So we wrote down Bryce Harper. We want to talk a little bit more about this guy. We touched on Bryce Harper last episode. What
Yeah.
are you thinking about Bryce Harper right now, Bradley?
So since July 24th, which this isn't an exact date, this was a while back now. But he was 1 for 34 since the All-Star break, and had a 4.24 OPS. I mean, I understand players like have a slump after the All-Star break, but holy, Mr. Bryce. If I do remember correctly, he's still hitting at like 275. But man, this is I've never seen Bryce Harper do something like this.
You think that Bryce Harper's struggles are a big reason the Phillies as a team are struggling, or is it more than just on Bryce Harper?
No, I think. Well, I mean, obviously, I think him not succeeding is a kind of a big deal. I don't know. Like in his last 15, he's hitting 172. I don't know. I think he is the Phillies, personally. He is, I mean, he is the perfect representative of that city. I think he's the ball of energy, and clearly he's not giving it out right now.
Um, when you say Bryce Harper is the city, I think that when he announced that he was going to Philadelphia however many years ago, originally I looked at it and I'm thinking, how do you go from a team in the NL East to a team in the NL East? I think the only 4 teams in the MLB I had him 100% not going to were those 4 teams.
Wow.
And then afterwards, you look at, like, in retrospect, Philadelphia seems so obvious. Like, why was it not?
Yeah, yeah.
Why was it not on my broadcast that he would go to Philly? Uh, his energy to Philly is just so good. When he hit, I think it was a grand slam walk off against the Cubs homer a few years ago. It might have been. I know it was a home run. It might have only been 3 or 2 runs. Him running the bases is just like, I remember it vividly. He's like running with a big smile on his face, yelling. That's like just the Phillies in one swing, I feel like.
Honestly, yeah, I agree.
And yeah, I don't want to hype the Phillies fans up a lot. I don't want this to go to Phillies fans' head, but I really do think Philadelphia is the best sports city in the U.S.
That's crazy. Ever hear of a place named Buffalo?
How can you be the best sports city if you don't? They have what? How many teams do they have? 1?
5.
What 5?
No, they have 2. The Sabres and Bills.
Yeah, I'm not a hockey guy, so I guess I can't speak as much on Buffalo. But yeah, I think that Bryce Harper. We said we're not worried about Corbin Carroll. I am not at all worried about Bryce Harper. Not in the slightest.
No, not at all.
He has realistically 2 years of hitting this bad before his career would be over. Like,
Yeah.
his track record is very good. He's gonna figure it out. I would not be worried at all if I were the Phillies. He'll get it going. It'll come. It might take a little bit more time because he's starting to get old. What is he now? Like 32?
Yeah.
31, yeah. But yeah, don't be worried about him. Yes, he's struggling. He's gonna figure it out, and then we're gonna be looking back at this conversation laughing at one point because Bryce Harper is just gonna be back to his usual ways.
Yep. I don't disagree with you.
Did we talk about the White Sox? I think we skipped the White Sox.
We talked about them, I'm pretty sure.
We talk about the White Sox a little more. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
There are a few things. So you're watching this. The White Sox just finished their losing streak. There are a few stats about this losing streak that I want to say. There's 3 things I saw that are just mind blowing. And if you need more, look up White Sox losing streak on Twitter, and the amount of like stats that came up when I looked that up, insane. The first one is during the broadcast last night. I think it was the White Sox announcer said that during their losing streak, 192 different MLB pitchers have tallied a win. That is a very substantial amount. Over probably 23 days of MLB games in that 23 or 24 days of MLB games in that time. If you took away both of their big losing streaks, they had a 14 game and now this 21 game, they would still have the worst record by win percentage in the MLB. Isn't that insane?
Oh, wow.
Lastly, this is a little gambling one. If you bet against them, so the opponent's money line, which is, you bet $100 on the opponents to win every game, you'd be up over $1,000 just on betting against the White Sox for a 21 game span, which is a lot for those of you guys that are not bettors at home. To to summarize the White Sox season, there was a photo of whoever the Dodgers just traded for the White Sox. Do you remember who that was? Was it Vargas?
Yeah.
I think it was Vargas. He gets over there and there's just a picture like 4 days in of him just looking miserable. And then Tommy Pham with the miserable photo that he had before every game, like showing what position he was in the field, switching to now St. Louis Cardinals with just a big smile on his face. That summarizes the White Sox season in 2 pictures for me. But
yeah, that's actually really accurate.
Yeah, it's just they gotta figure it out at some point. It can't, like, it feels like every time you look at it, it's just like good lord. So another thing that we're gonna do on each podcast is talk about some performances that stood out. Bradley, what's one of your performances that you wrote down?
So I'm gonna be honest. Only like 2 half performances made this great performance for me.
Okay.
And honestly, that's the only one that really kind of got me.
Yeah.
So I turn on the Astros Rangers game in the 7th inning. Okay. And I'm like, in my head, because obviously I don't say this out loud, because I'm superstitious. I'm like, holy moly, this guy's dishing, And so we get to the 9th inning, the bottom of the 9th. Okay. He's 3 outs away. He's sweating. It's moist in that building. So he walks the first guy. Okay. Then he gets the next guy to ground out into a double play. 2 outs. 1 out away with their leadoff hitter. Oh boy. It'll come to me at some point. He got walked on a full count.
Josh Smith.
It was yes, Josh Smith, thank you. It was a 3-2 count, 2 outs. You're 1 pitch away from the no-no, and you walk him. You walk him. So now you have one of the most clutch hitters in MLB playoff history. And now you got him right now. 1 out away. 1 out away. You just had it to a full count. 1 out away. And you know what Corey Seager says to a high slider? He says, bye. And he launches that thing 450 to deep right center field. Bye-bye, no-no. The lead is cut in half. Corey Seager, electric. Way not to get the pressure in your head, and you crank that baby out of here. Framber, you dish for 8 2/3 of an inning, brother. That's better than a lot of pitchers this year. So those are my 2 performances of the week.
What are the 2 performances?
Corey Seager and Framber Valdez.
Oh, and Framber. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I got it.
Did you not hear that? I said it.
I heard that, but I didn't put together that those were both the 2.
Oh, nice.
Brain dead moment. That's on me. Did you have anyone else, or is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Nothing stood out to me.
I had 3 people I wanted to talk about.
What?
Just to one up you. You know, I have to one up you.
Fair enough.
I was the one who asked you to do this podcast after all. No, I'm just messing around. First one, Jonathan Cannon, the White Sox starter, in the first White Sox pitcher win in 22 games. He threw 6 innings of 1-run ball with 5 strikeouts. And he told the Athletics, never play that song by Taylor Swift again. And he got the win. 22 games later than 22 games later than the White Sox would have wanted it. Yeah. Got the win.
Yeah. Hey, kudos.
So, yeah, 6 innings of 1-run ball for any pitcher is good. For the situation the White Sox are in, just makes it a little bit better.
Oh, 100%.
The next one on here, you've heard his name a lot by now. He's one of the most hyped up players in the bigs at the current moment. Elly De La Cruz in the last 2 games is 8 for 10 with 6 extra base hits, 5 runs, and 5 ribbies. I mean, 8 for 10 is impressive in itself. 6 extra base hits is absurd. He is starting to come into form. He's just phenomenal. There's nothing really outside of that. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah, he's electric. I mean,
Electric De La Cruz.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
no, I like that. But no, I mean, he already has. I mean, he's closing in on 60 stolen base, brother.
Yeah.
What is this, Ricky Henderson? Nah, it's Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah. What is this, Ronald Acuna? Nah, it's Elly De La Cruz. That would have been a fantastic stolen base race if Acuna stayed healthy.
Yeah.
And he struggled to start the year too, so who knows? But and the last person that I have on here, I'm going to totally mispronounce his first name. Ceddanne Rafaela of the Red Sox is one of 2 players in MLB history to start 53 games at short and 52 in center field. The only one who has ever done in the same season, obviously, which is insane, to play the second hardest and third hardest positions in the field to split your season at those 2 is incredible. The first is obviously catcher, if anyone was wondering. But to do that is just insane. The other person to play that many or more at both those 2 positions was on the 1964 Detroit Tigers by the name of Mickey Stanley, who started 74 games in center and 58 at short. Rafaela also in that game went 2 for 4 against the Royals, including a very nice catch in center. He is a very, very good defensive player, and to be able to play that many games at both those positions is pretty insane.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with you there.
If you don't know the name Ceddanne Rafaela, learn it.
Yeah, he's a baller. You know, we also didn't talk about the cycle that was hit on the Brewers by Xavier Edwards.
Yeah, what do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, damn you, Xavier. But, I mean, it's only the second cycle in Marlins history, which is crazy. So, ultimately, good for him, good for the game, good for the Marlins. Something's going right for once.
I think that an important piece of that is an MLB player hit for the cycle and nobody knows about it. Like, there was no... Usually, like, the no-hitter happens the other night, and social media is like, no-hitter, no-hitter, no-hitter. When a cycle happens, I'm not saying it's easier or more difficult than a no-hitter, but I think that it should be talked about equally as much, at least.
Right.
Just at like a similar level. Like, nobody heard of this. It took me like a week after, and I'm like, oh, Edwards hit for the cycle against us. That's right. Like, I think part of it is because the Marlins lost, but part of it is because the Marlins, unfortunately, aren't as marketed right now, which is honestly, in my opinion, a shame. Like, it doesn't. I think from a standpoint of a fan, I want to hear just as much about the Marlins' best player as I do about Elly De La Cruz or anybody's best player. But that's just me. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be a popular take, but I would rather
I don't think it will be either.
What'd you say?
I don't think it will be popular either.
No,
I don't disagree with it, but yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing successes, but I wish that all teams had equal popularity. I know that's never going to happen, obviously, because in the end, it just comes down to clicks, and Ellie's going to get more clicks than this guy in the Marlins that nobody's heard of. But really cool for Xavier Edwards. And I hope that in the future, he and other players get more love when they hit for cycles.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a tangent there.
A little bit, but that's fine. We're here to yap.
You want to introduce this next part, Bradley?
No, not really.
All right, I'll just make it easier. Who do you think is a better player, Mike Trout or Mookie Betts?
Mookie Betts.
May I ask why?
No.
All right, well, that's
Okay,
the podcast.
okay.
I hope you have a
No.
great...
I'll explain.
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody out there thinking that this is Bradley hating on Trout. Kind of is, but like, I will give props to him. He is probably one of the greatest players of our generation. He is absolutely insane at baseball. I wish he could stay healthy. He's, again, really good for the sport. I know I say that a lot, but I really want to see the sport thrive.
I think that's your
Mike Trout.
catchphrase.
Really?
When I was looking through the first one, you probably said that 6 or 7 times, and you've said it at least 3 times today.
Anyways,
Keep
Trout's
saying it. Don't stop saying it.
Trout's a fantastic player. He's, generational. You can't give him enough for what he's done for the game, and obviously just for what he's done accomplishing. But I do think Mookie Betts is a better player. So I pulled out a little stats. This was just for the giggles of it. But Mike Trout versus Mookie Betts, like when their teams played against each other. Mookie had a .295 batting average against them whenever they played Trouty. He also had 13 ding-dongs. Meanwhile, Trout was hitting .245 and had 6 ding-dongs. Trout's kind of poverty, but, it's whatever. Mookie, he has one of the highest defensive WARs for current players right now. He's insane at defense. He actually provides something on that side of the ball. Mookie Betts has a career 14.7 defensive WAR. Meanwhile, Trout has a measly 2.6. Think about that for a second. Mookie is just as good of a hitter, maybe a little bit worse, but just as good. But he provides so much more defensively. It's absolutely insane. Mookie has 6 gold gloves. Trout has 0. Mookie has 2 rings. Mike Trout has 3 at-bats in a playoff game. Or in a playoff series. So, you tell me. Would you take versatility and a more complete, very, very elite player? Or would you just take the offense? I don't know. To me, I'd take Mookie every day of the week.
Okay. I love asking this comparison. This isn't a basketball podcast, but people talk about Steph Curry, and I always ask, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm a Trailblazers fan. I always ask, if you switched Dame and Steph Curry, their teams on their career, how different of careers would they have? So I'm going to ask that same thing here. If Mike Trout gets drafted to the Red Sox and plays for the Red Sox and then gets traded to the Dodgers, and Mookie is stuck on the Angels, do you think that Trout, in your opinion, do you think Trout would be the better player?
No.
Just based on the teams that they played for?
No, because Mookie can carry.
You think Mookie Betts would bring them to playoff games?
Another playoff series, yeah, at least. I think he does more for the team. I think he's like a beating heart of a team. Whereas like Trout, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't get that vibe from him.
I obviously mentioned last time that I like Trout a lot.
Yeah, I know. I like Mookie a lot.
I don't think it is fair to say that Trout is not the beating heart of the team. Because, like, in my opinion, he gets drafted to the Angels, he plays his entire career for the Angels, has injury issues, but outside of Otani and a little bit of Rendon, a little bit of Pujols,
God, what a tragedy.
like, he hasn't really had many teammates that have been able to help him out. I'm curious. I'm gonna look at Trout's All-Star teammates versus Mookie Betts' All-Star teammates. Yeah, no, I don't think there's an easy way for me to see that. I think that that would be a really key statistic for me in this argument that I just don't have. Yes, Mookie Betts has the championships. Yes, he has more Gold Gloves. But I really think that Trout is not only a better player, but he's also, I don't know if I'd say he's a better teammate, but I don't think he's a worse teammate than Mookie Betts. The who's a better teammate argument from a fan's perspective is virtually impossible to put up. But like you don't see Mookie do this either. You don't see either of them say, "Oh, so and so was bad today on the mound," or so and so. If so and so makes this play, what they will say is they'll say, "If I would have caught that ball, or if I would have thrown that runner out, that we could have won the game." I think that just from my perspective, I think they are very comparable. I think Trout has the edge, mostly because he's been in the league a little longer. Yeah, that's mostly it. I totally understand. I can see where you're coming from, and I can understand your opinion. I just think that Trout has done it a little better for a little bit longer of time.
Here's another question for you based off of Trout.
Okay.
So I was looking in like the past 6 years, he hasn't played more than like 140 games. And most of that is just 2 seasons. And then he's played like 80, 60, in some shorter seasons. Like, is he close to retirement? Like, is he just going to call it quits?
I think he probably is. So, like, I don't know if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, he had a thing come out that said he has a problem with his back that is only going to get worse.
Right.
Right now, this year, he's been out for not back problems. I think knee. I think it might have been the same knee twice or different knees. Either way, it's not back. So, if you're trying to put everything you can into this job, and when they say that your back is only going to get worse, but you end up not playing because of a different thing that's not your back, like, what type of confidence does that give you?
Right.
I agree. I think that his durability is an important part in the argument. And if you say that you think Betts is better because of the durability aspect, like I said again, I can completely understand. But I think when Mike Trout is healthy, I don't know if there's a better hitter in the game when he's healthy and right. But Mookie Betts is in that conversation. It's not like he's significantly far behind. He's in the same vehicle. He's just in the back seat a little bit.
I got you. That makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna play the what if game here a little bit. So we flipped Mookie Betts and Mike Trout. So Mookie's now in the Angels. If Mookie has these injury problems and Mike Trout is a healthy human being, would you still have Mookie higher? I know
if
this is
he's still,
deep into the
I
what
don't
if
know,
train here.
like I said though, like if he had the injury problems like Trout, they'd still have similar statistics, and I think Mookie would still have the higher defensive WAR. So yeah, I think I'd still have Mookie probably. 'Cause
Okay.
as long as he's still the most complete player in baseball, well, maybe that's a little far because he doesn't really steal, but you know,
Yeah.
a very, very well-rounded player, then yeah, I think I'd still go with Mookie.
I think that one thing that Mookie has that I'll give you that Mike Trout will never be able to get is the versatility that Mookie provides. He's
Oh,
played. I would guess he's played everywhere except catcher at some point in his career.
I don't think first and third.
Not even for like an inning.
Mm, I mean, maybe in like a spring training game, but
Yeah, but I
because
mean, like,
he didn't start playing the infield until LA a couple years ago.
yeah. But then he played second last year. He's played short this year. He's
Yep.
played a pretty decent short this
Yeah,
year.
he
I know
is.
it hasn't been amazing. I think because the name Mookie Betts is attached, people expected him to be just this incredibly great defensive shortstop. But I think he's been average. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's been average.
I think he's above average. Just sometimes his throws, like he throws it like a outfielder, so
Yeah.
sometimes they sail a little bit. But it's not been something that's been devastating. Like I'm sure he still has a positive war, defensive war.
Yeah. That's one thing that I mean, not just Trout, but 99% of MLB outfielders wouldn't be able to do. You can't just be like except Mookie really. I'm gonna learn a new position. If Mookie Betts went on an interview and said he wants to try and become a catcher, I think I'd believe him.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
he'd probably be one of the few players that I would say sure. There's a Brewers example. I don't think we mentioned the Brewers yet. Oh man, I was so close. Uh, Sal Frelick tried to play third in spring training this year, and part of it is because we got Joey Ortiz, but he hasn't played a single big league game at third this year.
No, not at all.
Actually, I'm pretty sure he played like 2 or 3 innings at one point in a game, but he hasn't started the game at third at least. So that transition is not easy. Going to the infield
No.
to the outfield is a little bit easier, but it's still tough.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Anyway, another tangent I got on.
It was a good one.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about? We got a few minutes here before we gotta wrap it up because our agents told us we have to stay under an hour and a half.
No, I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, you know, I'd like to thank people. Those of you that watch the YouTube clip, I love you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Smack the like button, subscribe. We appreciate all the support. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, well, give us a listen. Give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate the support. Let us know that you're listening. It means the world to us.
Yeah. If you like this stuff, we're gonna keep on throwing out baseball content. Bradley and I both really really love baseball.
Love it.
If you know other people that like this stuff, let them know. Worst case scenario, you're like, hey, there's this cool podcast, and they shut you down, slap you in the face, stomp on you, and say, no, I don't do podcasts. You go home with a few bruises and you call it a day. Best case scenario, you make a bond with that person for life because all of a sudden you guys like the same podcast.
Heck yeah!
It's really as easy as that.
We Cupid, baby!
But that's it for today. I don't want to promise that we'll talk about anything specific in the future. Maybe we'll rip out some power rankings next stream. I think we'll do.
Hey Ben, I love that. Let's do it.
Also, one thing, I just looked up a picture of all the MLB teams. I don't think we've talked about the Tigers very much. So quick, Bradley, what's your thoughts on the Detroit Tigers?
They traded away Jack Flaherty. Didn't really get anything back. They got promising offense. Got Tariq Skubal still. He's nasty. They got him to like 2027. So I mean, they got guys coming up. They need Torkelson to provide, but he ain't doing that. So the offense, they need to find offense. Bottom line, they got some good pieces though. Riley Green.
I totally agree. They have some good pieces. We need to call up Akil Badu. Bring him up. That's 2 streams that the GOAT, Akil Badu, has been mentioned.
W. All champ.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next week. I think we'll try to do this weekly. We'll figure that out. Have a good one. Bye.